So we're here at the future site of the sugar bush, and we had a tarp parking shelter set up here which has collapsed under the snow load, and now we have to dig it all out so we can salvage our spot. We have to remove the tarp and then undo all the bolts on the frame, and once we've got that set up, we're going to set up some tripods and run a ridge pole, and then we're going to rehang our brown tarp as a temporary cover. So I'm super excited. We have a brand new Dominion Grimm arch, an evaporator, a wood-fired one, which is coming up to this location. This is our temporary site for this year, and then future plans are to move it to a permanent home. At some point we'll do a sugar house build. Of course that'll go onto the channel. So big thank you to Dominion Grimm for sponsoring my channel in this 2019 year and going forwards. And we've got our work cut out for us. It's March the 9th, and some people are predicting that we'll have a mid-March run on maple syrup, maple sap, and we're just getting ready for that.
What the heck? You're not going to be helpful, then don't be anything.
See, they're not usually fun to go out with most of the time. Most of the time they bicker and they fight and they hit each other and they complain. Keep bringing them out anyway. So it's excavated right down to the ice. There's ice on top of the tarp. Yeah. So we can't pull the brown tarp out right now because it's iced in. So we're gonna chip away at it for a couple more hours tomorrow, and we've basically cleared out a 10 by 20 square, 3 feet deep, which is quite a bit of work. Kids kept the fire going the whole time. They uncovered the firewood pile over there for burning in the evaporator once we get it up here. And so the plan at this point is sort of to put a tripod at the back, a tripod at the front, run a ridge pole along the top, and then that brown tarp will go over the top and form a triangle roof, and that should protect the evaporator for this season. We'll be back. We're back at the Sappy Shack, or the soon-to-be Sappy Shack. We are going to, well, we have goals today, so we're going to cook the porcupine on an open fire. We want to finish digging out our shelter spot for the arch. We want to build the wood frame to hang a new tarp to protect it, and we're going to start tapping trees today and hopefully move up some of our equipment so that we can start to assemble the arch, also known as the evaporator.
Right there. I just put some bird bark in. Look at that fire right there. Wow.
When we were here in the fall, I was really kind of depending on that tarp parking shelter to hold up for the winter, and we ended up cutting a lot of the dead spruces and balsams that were close to the sugar camp spot. Now I wish I'd left them so I could cut them for poles, because we're doing a pole frame and a tarp, which will end up being 1/10 the cost of that tarp shelter, which collapsed and is completely destroyed. So we have to go a little bit further to find good poles. So I'm basically just looking up and seeing if the tops are green or not. Usually these little guys here, when they're growing in the understory, they get crowded out over time. Only some of them make it to the top, and so you can find ones that have died from being in the shade. So here, for example, are 2 balsam firs. This one's a bit bigger, this one's a bit smaller, and oh, we're on the wrong side here. You don't want to stare into the sun, but if you look up, you can see the smaller one's got all dead top, and then the bigger one's got a green top. This guy got shaded out, so I'm going to cut that one down and drag it back. The kids will burn all the branches, and I'll use the pole. I didn't bring my silky saw today, but I have my daughter's like an arborist saw or a pruning saw. You can get these for 10 or 15 bucks, and they're a real workhorse. You want to imagine that we come out here for the peace and quiet, but you can hear what we put up with sometimes. Roll camera. So we've got our first official visitors to the sugar bush, which is exciting. And we're going to tap our first 2 trees just for the heck of it. Then we're going to get that porcupine started. So, I like using the old bit and brace. We're on the south side of the tree, and I think we do about 36.
Can I put it in?
Yep.
It's almost as bad as a fork. Declan, they're popping!
Move over here, monkey. Bottom. These pails are going to be like at chin height when we get to the spring. Come on over. You got room?
You hold the hammer.
Yeah. Just jump. Okay.
Are you going to be able to get the bucket under?
I think so. If not, we'll dig. That should be okay, Linnea. Watch your nose. And just break that piece of bark if you take it out. Okay. And then put it in. And then you want to tap it gently on this part here. We actually have a special hammering tool, but I didn't bring it today.
Where did you get your equipment, Joe?
I want a tapestry.
Most recently I got it at Kids Home Hardware in Sunbridge. But all the home hardwares carry it, and
well, we're just doing these.
that should be good. And I've also bought some from Atkinson Maple Syrup Supply in Aurelia, I think.
What's it
They're
called?
right on the highway. They have all kinds of stuff.
I think that's good.
There it is.
Take this
We
out.
need our next trip up. We'll bring some bucket lids. Can you pass that other file over to Daphne? And the hammer. And it's too cold, so there's no sap today, but soon.
I think that should be good. So you have to hit it.
These ones are right. They should get lots of sun in the south here. Maybe we'll cut this little tree out of here too, as part of our stand maintenance. Yeah, you want it to be in firmly, but you don't want to like pound it in there.
Feels good. And now we'll have to take some snow away. We'll stick it.
Yeah, here's a bucket.
I want to dig snow.
Yeah, I'll pass that over there.
That's exciting. First taps, 2019.
Are you going to tap some trees?
I might. There's a lot of ice right there.
That's a really small shovel you brought. Looks like you're gold mining
A little bit more.
for liquid gold.
Yeah. Isn't sap supposed to be like nature's electrolytes or something? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's full of nutrients. What's in the pan?
Red and wild food.
Oh, that's not a porcupine. Unwild food. Okay.
That's perfect.
Cool. The fire is burning all the way down to the ground, slowly but surely. And Mike and I almost freed up that tarp. Then we can start disassembling this broken shelter. Got some poles cut. Start building our frame. So where these side ones are, I was trying to disconnect this on the next one over, and I was pushing on here, and that's what that thing came out, but under a lot of pressure. Then it came off and it hit me in the side of the temple there.
Okay, I'll play one more round and then that's it. And pop! No, I got it pretty good.
Anyway, it's a good time for an update too. So Mike and I smashed up all the ice and we were able to drag out the brown tarp, which is going to be our new roof shelter, that one right there. And you can see there's nice ground under here because it was the fall when we set it up. You can see how much snow there is around. My chainsaw, it's been out here all winter. It started up second try, so I was happy about that. So we're taking out all these poles, and then we'll put in 2 beams, which will become the base for the arch to sit on. It's got 4 feet. The front of it, we'll put, I'm thinking we're going to put a bit of a base, and then put the patio stones on top of that so that catches any sparks that drop. And then we'll just shovel snow underneath every once in a while so the ground doesn't dry out too much. And we should be able to do a lot of boiling. Couldn't say no to this nuisance porcupine that my friend's colleague removed from their property. And because we've specifically been looking for a porcupine this winter, Delphine really wants to eat a porcupine. So we have a frozen porcupine, and we're going to process this down. So first we're going to start removing quills carefully. And those quills, you separate them from the hair. So the quills will become craft material. And what I've got is just like a little tool organizer or a fishing tackle box, and we'll start to fill that up with the quills. And once those are down, then we will skin this porcupine when it's thawed, and after it's thawed out, we'll cut it all up. So I was reading a little bit about cooking with rendered porcupine fat. However, that was written by Burnt Berglund, and I don't know if it's true or not, but we're going to give that a try too. In my own shadow here. If you're careful about the porcupine, you can pluck. So you can see I've exposed a patch of skin there by plucking. Set the hair aside, and here's an example of Delphine's quill handiwork here. My moccasin faces, that's all quills. You can't really appreciate how many quills they actually have until you start to pluck one. And there are so many, like all those white pieces are quills. Then they have this downy short hairs, and then they have longer soft hairs, and then they have the very long guard hairs that are stiff. So we're just working away at plucking this guy right now. Already got a lot of quills over there. You can see there are lots of smaller, narrower quills that are coming out with the hair. Think it's halfway yet?
Close.
Close. Plucked porcupine, like a duck. So most of the porcupine is plucked on the back. Gotta be careful, there's still a few quills here. So mostly plucked, and most of the quills are on the back. You can see there's lots of them on the tail still. And the quilled part of the porcupine is actually the easier part of it to pluck. It's when you get to this belly fur, the belly fur is really hanging on, and that's the harder part. And of course, what you're wondering is, is it even worth it? Why would you pluck a porcupine? So I did a video with the wooded beardsman, and we partially plucked one, and then we singed all the hair off. And the advantage to doing that is that we were then able to cook the porcupine in its own skin. And the skin, of course, being the largest organ in the body, has a lot of nutrients that might not be found in the meat, but also a lot of fat. So if you can keep the skin on the porcupine, you are maximizing your nutrients and fat for food. And one way that I like to think about it is as opportunity lost or opportunity gained. So you'd have to balance out, the time spent plucking the porcupine relative to what you might otherwise be doing if you weren't plucking the porcupine. So if I wasn't plucking the porcupine, would I be doing something that would get me more fat or more calories or more gain than what I'll get from the skin by being careful and plucking it in this way? And the other part of that is, if I was singeing it, then I obviously would not be getting all these crafting quills, which I won't personally use, but Delphine will use for crafts, and that we also could use as trade items, because often, a small bag of quills sells for $15 or $20. So that could be a wild craft that we trade for foods or other crafts or resources. So in my case, it's the middle of winter and it's dark out, and there's not really anything else much that I would be doing with this porcupine. So taking the time to pluck it is probably worthwhile. And in a community setting where you've got people who can kind of specialize on tasks, you know, the likelihood that you have somebody who's maybe idle or not able to take on other tasks but could sit and pluck a porcupine, those chances are pretty good. The other thing is, if you were to weigh out all the skin on this porcupine and figure out how much nutrition you were going to get from that skin and whether it's worth the 4 hours or 5 hours that it takes you to pluck the porcupine, you know, at a very low energy level, this is not intensive to do, then those extra calories are probably also worth it. Now, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to proceed here, because it is getting really difficult to pull the hair basically from the belly downwards. So I've got all the quills and hair pulled off of the back of the porcupine, and Delphine and my daughter were doing a lot of that work too, but they both had to stop, and I'm getting kind of late at night now, so I'm getting a little bit burnt out by picking porcupine. For this porcupine's still frozen inside too, so what I might do at this point is pluck some of the tail, because the tail has lots of quills and is pretty easy to pull, and then I might just put it in my fridge for the night and work on it tomorrow. So all this belly hair is proving to be really hard to take off, so what I'm going to do now, even though it's past my bedtime, is I'm going to skin the porcupine along the edge of the belly, take the belly off, skin around the hindquarters and the front legs, and then probably also around the tail. I think it's still frozen inside, it's pretty cold, so I don't think that I will gut it tonight, but that'll be my tomorrow task. There's a lot of extra skin on a porcupine. You don't realize it until you take the quills off and the hair, and then you see all this extra skin. I think I dulled my knife on something. It's not cutting top notch right now. I might have to give it a few passes on the work sharp. This is the little work sharp that was sponsored when the Wooded Beardsman and I were in Woodland Caribou Provincial Park, and I never used one before that trip, but I sure have been using it a lot since, because I've found that it's just about the handiest sharpener around. If you haven't tried these guys out, I really suggest getting them. They've got a coarse diamond side, a fine diamond side, they've got a ceramic rod, and also a honing strop. So for me, typically I'll do a couple passes on each side of the knife on the diamond, and then some passes on the ceramic rod, which also has a 20-degree guide on it. And if you do this regularly as regular maintenance, usually your knives stay pretty sharp. And then, as long as you have patience, you can do a few dozen or a few hundred strops. So this has already got, it's a piece of leather and it's already got some grit paste in it. You could buy replacement grit paste if you wanted to. And hopefully now, even just after that little bit of sharpening, it's working quite a bit better. So there's belly skin here. I know there's a couple puncture wounds on the belly, so I'm going to have to be careful as I get towards the belly of the beast. And I'm going to skin out this back leg, this hind quarter. There's probably going to be a lot of good meat on there. My daughter has a salted and dried porcupine leg that she traded somebody for, and it's actually a pretty interesting little memento. I'm not sure, I'll check with my kids in the morning. Maybe I'll dry up these porcupine legs and then they can trade them or keep them for something. Sometimes it's nice to have a collection of dried animal feet because it really helps you to learn the tracks that they make if you've got the actual anatomical specimen handy for reference. So I'm gonna disjoint this foot at the back here. Should come off. I realize my hand's in the way there. I don't have the best camera angle going on. Should just be able to take it apart at the joint. And because it's a porcupine, you got to be really conscious about how you grab that skin for a grip while you're doing your work, because there's still lots of quills to deal with. Not very many on the belly, but towards the back of the hind quarter and especially around the tail. There's a bunch of them. Anyway, I probably won't show too many details here. I'll start to get into some blood soon enough, and I'm pretty sure the YouTube AI screens for the blood, and then it demonetizes your video because advertisers don't want to be associated with authentic food. So I'll just show you my finished product here when I get it skinned up.
I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah, too big for the pot, so you're going to quarter them up?
I guess I'll have to. He's frozen still?
Oh no. I thawed it out overnight, but I guess it was not quite long enough.
Well. Let's chop what he can off, I guess.
So this porcupine was a nuisance one that was killed by a colleague of a friend. I think I mentioned that earlier, so I ended up with it. We have plucked it, dequilled it, and it's mostly skin on, and now it's going to get quartered up. So I'm getting out of the smoke here, and we'll cook it.
Can I grab one?
Spoiled kids on St. Patrick's Day.
Well, Aiden's an elf. Not an elf, a leprechaun.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Mom.
Yum.
Thank you, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. You're welcome.
And then
Did-
I have to say thank you to the
Is there a wild version for us?
Kind of, yeah.
All
It's,
right.
I'll show you. It's not ready to go in yet. So I'm just did up a little crust to go on the bottom of the pan.
Yep.
Oh, it's right frozen now. With green
Mmm.
nettles and leeks
Greens.
on top. And then, yeah, a
Nice.
little leek cake.
So we quartered up the porcupine off camera, but there it is all quartered up in a pan, and you can see it still has its skin on mostly. And we're just building up a bed of coals. Well, I think we've run into the end of our day. The fire keeps drowning under the snow. We haven't got it burnt down to the ground yet, so it's just smoldery. And everybody's got wet hands, cold hands. We got most of this dug out here, so probably come back and tackle some more of that tomorrow. Big tarp's loose. We need to cut some more poles. And hey? Yeah. Yeah, mine all tapped out. I'm cold. Can I go home? So we sent them away. But Dell's kids are all dressed for it and keep them busy. So we'll pack it up and we will be back.
I hate to do this, but
Where'd the bush camp craft go? I've moved over to Delphi's kitchen. And these have been in the oven. It's the porcupine. They look tasty. We pulled back from the bone. They're medium rare and a bit.
you said that then. More attack? Attack?
Cool. So to go along with the porcupine, there's some black chanterelles and some of the sunchoke chips. Those are going to get rehydrated. And some greens. Fiddleheads and is it amaranth or nettle? Nettle. And rainbow trout eggs. So that'll be to whip up a dessert. There's the liver and the heart and the front part of the porcupine for another day. So there's neck, ribs,
And
there's the inside there. Cool. A lot of people are surprised at how much maple syrup we put in everything.
well, that was maybe an eighth of a teaspoon. But just to help mushroom water
Yeah.
and sometimes I can do messy sauce already here.
Okay.
Sometimes I just put this in.
Good. What's in the tea, babe? Is it rose petals and
Mint.
mint? That's become your
Kinda.
go-to, eh?
It's one of them. And also because we picked a lot of rose petals, so
Yeah.
I never feel too badly about having quite a bit few to use.
we can each start with the leg, eh? That looks good.
Here. On Saturday when I go to Yu-Gi-Oh,
Mm.
you need to give me
It's kind of chewy like a pork roast.
You can record it if you want to.
Yeah, like a pork roast.
Yeah.
That's what everyone was saying online.
Well, let's try this tree pork. It is kind of stringy inside.
Tastes like chicken.
Like dark chicken meat. Tastes like raccoon. Tastes good.
Thank you for the porcupine, Mama.
You're welcome.
Wait, you ate it?
Yes, darling.
First porcupine of 2019.
It's really good.
It's not strongly flavored. It's good. It's like slightly chewy, but the grain's not strong. I like it just fine.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I think you would like it. Edge? Sure you don't want to try? Yeah. Here, have a little piece.
I get a piece of juice in case I don't like it.
Okay.
The juice is in here.
You will like it
That's
though,
empty,
babe.
I
Here,
think.
just have a taste. It's such a tiny little piece. It's kind of like chicken or pork. It's good.
Meaty meat. The sunchokes and mushrooms are nice. The greens are nice. I haven't eaten very many greens lately, so
Me either. Because there's not so many left.
Yeah. we're running low. What day is it today?
It's March 2018.
No.
Day
no.
77.
77.
Oh, I thought you were talking about.
It's kind of gone by fast in some ways, eh?
I think so.
You think like we're 77 days in?
We're halfway through the third month. Beyond. I think it's
Yeah.
Wait, Aiden, look up front.
We're so close to the season change. Now, some people in our area are making maple syrup. We're just getting our operation set up. The snow is starting to melt. The squirrels and the birds are behaving differently.
It's kind of sweet. Is it?
Was there maple syrup in it?
No.
Oh, I thought there was maple syrup in it.
No.
And I was going to say, it tastes a little bit like maple syrup, but then that seemed redundant because we put maple syrup on everything, but
No.
I would definitely say it tastes sweet then,
$12, $5,
because I thought there was maple syrup on it.
and then the rest of it would be perhaps the price of the black sleeves. So then if I get you black sleeves for your blue,
Definitely sweet.
because I'm going to have, I'll use
I'm
some of,
I like it.
I'll keep the rest of the sleeves.
Next month,
They're tricky
I
to
use that money.
process.
Next month, I'm gonna get $80.
Like,
I think they could be a lot easier if we
You just
hadn't been
skin them
worried
out?
about the having the quills to keep.
yeah,
Deck box,
I,
$5 for that.
I find these on the road fairly frequently,
Half the price for the sleeves.
so it probably picks them up.
And then you can use 40 sleeves,
Um,
and I'll keep the other 20.
Usually though, we find them
20
past
for
eating
40
stage,
sleeves, 'cause I have
Yeah,
but okay to take the quills off.
yeah.
Which is pretty easy when they've been out for a bit.
Yeah. But if you drive the same road every day,
Mm.
then you kind of know if it's fresh or not, then might be worth picking one up. I'm not sure how easy they are to skin out with all the quills on because I haven't done that before. I've only cleaned 2 porcupines. We plucked this one and the other one. I started plucking it, but then we singed it all. And then cooked it like that. I would do that again.
Wait, I wanna fit a corner. Let's get over the corner. I'm trying to get one.
That's good. Did you have a plan for the ribs? Porcupine ribs?
Well, they didn't fit in
Yeah.
the pan,
So we might have a second porcupine meal of ribs and
Oh, and I found it.
liver and heart. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, I found Iron Man.
So we had to switch gears. We were going to do this out in the sugar bush, but it just kind of got away on us out there. We will be cooking meals out in the bush soon because we're outdoors a lot more often now.
And we just want
And we'll be doing some campfire cooking.
these legs.
So that's coming up. And then we'll be getting into a lot of foraging videos soon too because we're back into our picking season, summer fishing,
yes.
leeks,
Yes.
turkey hunting.
Well, you'll miss the leeks, but
Yeah,
I'll be there.
I'll put out a video about coconuts.
Coconut, yeah.
Delphine will post some footage of the leeks. And
Leeks
because
and other
we're
things.
picking for this season, but we're also now starting to stockpile when we get into abundance for 2020. We'll also probably do some things outside of the big wild year, like we'll pickle some of the leeks with vinegar from the store. That'll become part of our 2020 food. But we also want to set aside enough leeks to get us through to the new year. So we'll be doing a lot more mixes of preservation techniques and storage techniques. Right on. Alright. I'll shut it down. You don't need to watch us eat.
Wait.
And I can't think of anything else more to say.
I want to find golden piece.
Except to say again that it's really tasty.
Yeah.
Just pulling them off the membrane. So that's your stash of sedge seed flour. That's dock.
Yeah, you
And there was acorn flour in there too.
can see
And
it.
bear fat.
Yep. Do you want anything else in it?
What are these ones? Primrose? Yeah, do you have a little bit of plantain or the
Yeah. Oh wait, this one is. I think I got most of this. Most of the seeds out.
applesauce? A little bit of maple syrup seems like a good idea. No, it's a lot of egg, eh?
Well, the nice thing about it is, every time we do this, like, you don't really need to use a lot of flour, which is good.
looks so different from the perch eggs when it's whipped up.
Yeah, this is a really nice peachy color.
Yeah,
The other one's quite pink.
it seems really foamy.
The other one was.
Yeah.
Except for, what was the second one that we used? That I couldn't, they didn't beat up at all. Were
It's
they
the
walleye?
Y. Yeah.
Yeah, these were almost immediately fluffy.
Yeah.
And the perch eggs were just after a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But the other ones, I beat them probably for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And they did not foam up at
No.
all. No.
So not all fish eggs are the same.
There. Now.
Grease with the bear fat. One cake each.
Good.